What up, man? Yeah, my brother. Hold on. Hold on. Let me get this. I had a good day today, man. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see what they get through. What they got through. I hope I have enough time to share it. But, yeah. Peace, my brother. Peace. Big brother Malik. That's my brother. That's my big brother. That's my big brother. From another mother. Brother Malik. Big brother Malik Reed L. Yeah. Oh, bam. Here we go. All right. Here we go. Bam. All right. Bam. Let me get my eyes. Like Busta Rhymes said. Oh, shoot. We're going to get to the business today. We're going to stick to the business today. Let me get a little water. Throat dry. We're going to get to the business. Let me get some little cranberry juice. I got a little mixture, concoction going on. But yesterday, I wanted to get into the subject of auto-suggestion, but we got into a conversation which it was beautiful. I always like building, but I promised a few people that I would come back and give that specific topic because I'm always on a level of this brain and this power that we have, you know, and I understand who I am. I hope you understand who you are. But it's always beautiful to have those builds with my brothers and sisters just to see where we at with our understanding or maybe our misunderstanding and then be able to clear some things up because it's only one truth. It's only one science. It's only one law. And we can't arbitrarily explain things and we can't use our feelings. That's the thing that we have to do if we operate on justice. So I want us to be clear with that. When we must clear up and we must clean our own house. It's only one way to do things, and that's the right way. But let's get into the topic at hand, and then I want to play a little film or a little video of a message, and then I'll tell you the topic of it as I give this little pre-topic of auto-suggestion. And anybody can add their topics long as it's in context of what we're talking about. But the term auto-suggestion simply means self-suggestion. Suggestion which one deliberately makes to oneself. Like the poet or the writer James Allen in his excellent little magazine. Y'all know who James Allen is? See, off the top, things stick out to me because it's things that a map and a guide is going to give you to say, hey, I suggest you read this. So James Allen is the author that wrote As a Man Thinketh, has given the world a fine lesson in auto-suggestion by having shown that a man may literally make himself or a woman herself over through this process of self-suggestion. This lesson, like James Allen's, or little, how can I say, compilation, is intended mainly as a means of stimulating men and women to discover and perception of the truth that they themselves are makers of themselves by virtue of the thoughts which they choose and encourage, that the mind is the master weaver, both of the inner garment of character and the outer garment of circumstance, and that as they have hereto woven in ignorance, pain, and grief. They may now weave in enlightenment and happiness. The lessons is not a preachment, nor is a treatise on morality or ethics. It is a scientific treatise through which the student may understand the reason why the first rung in the magic ladder to success was placed there, and how to make the principle back of that rung a part of his or her own working equipment with which to master life's most important economic problems. This lesson is based upon the following facts, and I quote eloquently with a silver tongue, these is keys. Every moment of the human body is controlled and directed by thought, that is, by orders sent out from the brain, where the mind has its seat of government. 2. The mind is divided into two sections, one being called the conscious section, which directs the bodily activities while we are awake, and the other being called the subconscious section, which controls our body activity while we are asleep. You know? So when we talk about different concepts or different tools in a toolbox, I use this concept. The presence of any thought or idea in one's conscious mind, and probably the same is true of thought and ideas in the subconscious division of the mind, tends to produce an associate feeling and to urge one to appropriate bodily activity in transforming the thought so held into physical reality. Analogy, or an example per se. One can develop courage and self-confidence by the use of the following, or some similar positive statements, or by holding the thought of the statement in one's mind constantly. I believe in myself. I am this. I am strong. I am courageous. I can do this. I have the power. I can accomplish whatever I take. This is called auto-suggestion. You know? And then we proceed to give the modus, the operanda, through which the first step in magic ladder to success can be appropriated. And it can be used. To begin with, search diligently until you find the particular work to which you wish to devote your life. It got to be a work that you wish to devote your life. You hear what I said? I ain't say time. I said devote your life. Taking care to see that you select that which will profit all who are affected by your activities. After you have decided what your life work is to be, write out a clear statement of it and then commit to it and memorize it. Several times a day we do these things. Before we sleep, when we wake up. Affirm to yourself that you are attracting to the necessary forces, to the people, to the material things with which to attain the object of your life work or your definite aim in your life work. Bear in mind, my brothers and sisters, that your brain is literally a magnet and that it will attract to you other people who harmonize in thought and ideas with those thoughts which dominate your mind and those ideas which are most deeply seated in you. This is what I teach young kids, how to use their brain, how to think, how to use auto-suggestion, how to use their subconsciousness, how to use their consciousness, how to use their God consciousness. There's a law, which we may properly call the law of attraction, which we call one of the 7 Kemetic principles, through the operation of which water seeks its level, and everything throughout the universe of like nature seeks its kind. If it were not of this law, brothers and sisters, which is an immutable as the law of gravitation, which keeps the planets in their proper places, the cells out of which an oak tree grows might scamper away and become mixed with the cells of which the polar grows, thereby producing a tree that would be polar and part oak, my brothers and sisters. Such a phenomenon has never been heard of. Following this law of attraction a little further as we may go, we can see how it works out among men and women per se. We know that successful, prosperous men and women of affairs seek the companionship of their own kind, while the down and out seekers, his kind or her kind, as this happens just as naturally as water flows downhill per se. Like attracts like, a fact which is indisputable. Then, if it is true that men are constantly seeking the companionship of those whose ideas and thoughts harmonize with their own, can you not see the importance of controlling and directing your thoughts and ideas, that you will eventually develop exactly the kind of magnet in your brain that you wish to serve as an attraction in drawing others to you and I? Think about this wisdom and this science. It's real, brothers and sisters. If it's true that the very presence of any thought in your conscious mind has a tendency to arouse you to bodily, to muscular activity that will correspond with the nature of the thought, can you not see the advantage of selecting with care the thoughts which you allow your mind to dwell upon? So when we have this understanding and when we put these keys together, this puzzle together, you know, lay the foundation, put it together, put the puzzle together. Autosuggestion, which is nothing more or less than the idea held, you know? It's just an idea held in the mind. That's what autosuggestion is. When you understand these things, it's just an idea in the mind. So when I'm saying autosuggestion, it's more or less than an idea held in the mind through thought. It is the only known principle through which one may literally make oneself over after any pattern he or she may choose. How to develop this certain skill trait, this auto-suggestion. This brings us to an appropriate place at which to explain the method through which your author and which I'm trying to deliver to you as a dissertation or just a quick speaking or just a quick enlightenment. You know, it takes time. It takes work, as my noble Malik says, working in your progress. But before we go into details, you must understand the tendency of human beings to doubt that which they do not understand, and all that they cannot prove to their own satisfaction, either by similar experience or their own or by observation. So let us also remind you that this is no age for a doubting Thomas per se. No age for doubting Thomas per se. While a comparatively person understand this wisdom, the birth of things, the hidden sciences, nothing is hidden. I want us to understand that. We must understand this science. You know, it's like I can talk about so much. How can I say it? Peace, Noble. I can talk about so many things and so many different ways of interpreting and misinterpreting. You know, I could talk about all type of crafts. Like analogy I give, there would be no lasting peace on earth until the human race is taught that physical conflict cannot decide a moral issue. You know? I understand egotism, but then I also understand the value of a definite aim in life. You know? The definite aim of life. You know? What does that mean? A definite aim in life, brothers and sisters. Who is wise enough to either affirm or deny the statement that there is a law of the universe through which we attract to us, that which we believe in life, that we can attain through this same law, that we receive that which we demand, providing the demand is possible of attainment and is based upon equity, justice, and a clearly defined plan. See, I know this to be true. I'm convinced that it's possible to defeat the purpose of a person who organized his or her efforts out of such organization. The teacher, what I'm trying to demonstrate, with astounding speed, the position in life to which I aspire. And I know anyone else can do the same. Anyone else can do the same. Service and sacrifice are passwords to the very highest success. See, when people say you can't do something, people have been telling me, oh man, you shouldn't get no houses in Flint. Ain't nobody gonna do this. And now we're getting them, it's popping. We just clean them up, fix them up, put them right back on the market. It's like we jumping in the whole atmosphere, creating a lane. And I'm finna bring it to my muftis. When I talk about group economics, when you can do things together, it's always a way to do things. It's always a way. This is a work in progress. Once you figure things out and you build a team, then success happens. I know this to be true. I ain't never been accused of being superstitious. I ain't never been impressed very much by so-called miracles, but I am compelled to admit that I have seen the working out in my own evolution during the past years, certain principles which have produced seemingly miracle results. I can say this with my life. I've watched the development and unfolding of my own mind, and while I ordinarily am not very deeply impressed by these so-called miracles, the cause of which I cannot trace, I must admit that much has happened in the development of my own life, which I cannot trace back to no original cause. I can't trace it back to no original cause. The things that we doing, I ain't no rich man. The things that me and my brother Chavez Nobledale doing in the city of Flint, with our pennies coming together, doing the research, working. Oh man, it's a beautiful thing. And I'm gonna bring this back to my brothers and sisters. You see? But this much I do know. This much I do know. I know that my outward bodily action invariably harmonize with and corresponds to the nature of the thoughts which dominate my mind, the thoughts which I permit to drift into my mind, or those which I deliberately place therewith the intention of giving them to domination over my bodily activities. I know the work that can be done. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it with my muftis. My own experience has proven conclusively that character needs not to be a matter of chance. Character can be built to order just the same as a house can be built to correspond to a set of previously drawn up plans. This is what I know. This is what I know. Why? Because my own experience has proven conclusively that a man can rebuild his character in a remarkably short length of time, ranging all the way from a few weeks to a few years, depending upon the determination and the desire with which he or she goes at that task. See, this is what I know. See, nobody can tell me no different. I told y'all, happiness is the only good. The place to be happy is here. The time to be happy is now. The way to be happy is to help make others so. This is what I know. This is community, as my Noble Malik said. He made the shirts. This is what I know. I teach these lessons on applied psychology. I have these experiences. I'm telling people, I've gained considerable attention among interested parties everywhere I go. A lot of the stuff I talk about is not common in my community. That's why I had to join other communities. That's why a lot of my speakings is not popular, and I'm okay with it. Vibrations of melanation. Malik, we got to make jogging suits of that this year. We got to turn up, we got to turn up 100% this year. We got to turn up 100%, my brothers. Because I ain't satisfied with nowhere we at. I can't be satisfied. I ain't satisfied with nothing. Understand that. We going to keep going. Persistency. We going to keep pushing. But this is the mind, that mind power. That suggestion. You know, when we talk about meaning of autosuggestion and the principles through which it may be used, autosuggestion means self-suggestion. Self-suggestion. We now come to other principles of psychology, which is as follows, and I quote, suggestion is a principle of psychology through the correct use of which we may influence, direct, and control the minds of others. It is the chief principle used in advertising and salesmanship. It is the principle through which Mark Antony swayed the Roman mob in the wonderful speech outlined in The Psychology of Salesmanship by Napoleon Hill. Suggestion differs from auto-suggestion. Just like when people say, well, I have, what is it? I know somebody that's good, then what? So then you got to know somebody that's bad. Because how you going to know what's good and what's bad? But suggestion differs from auto-suggestion in only one way. We use it to influence the mind of others, while we use auto-suggestion in influencing our own minds. Suggestion is one of the most subtle and powerful principles of psychology. Science has proven that through the destructive use of this principle, life may be actually extinguished, while all manner of disease may be eliminated through the constructive use. What I'm saying is, on numerous occasions, you can demonstrate the remarkable power of suggestion in different manners, you know? Just like when I teach these concepts, I'll give you an analogy just like the power of suggestion in the following manner. When I'm talking about applied science. So if I say, before you would take a class that I would teach, or say if you're taking it with another professor, I will prepare you before you take the class. So I would prepare you like this. Taking a 2-ounce bottle labeled oil or peppermint, I make a brief explanation that I wish to demonstrate the power of smell. Stay in context. Then holding the bottle in front of the class so all may see it, you explain that it contains oil of peppermint and that a few drops of it poured on a handkerchief, which you can hold in the hand, will penetrate the farthest end of the room in about 40 seconds. Then you uncork the bottle and pour a few drops of on a hanky, and that sometime during the face of the shape of the indicates, you know what happens. You know what I mean? But the hands begin to go rapidly until you smell it all over the room. What I'm saying. But I don't want to go on and on to it, but when I do it in person, you'll get the concept of what I'm saying. But if an audience of people can be made to smell oil of peppermint when a bottle of plain water is uncorked through the principle of suggestion, because I wanted to skip that part. I want you to fill it in. I'm going to demonstrate it later. Can you not see what remarkable possibilities there are for constructively use this principle in every legitimate task you perform? Did you catch what I just said? Watch this. Let me go back. Let me fill a little bit in for you. If suggestion will actually turn healthy body cells into parasites out of which a cancer grows, can you now imagine what it will do in eliminating diseased body cells and replacing them with healthy ones? Remember when I talk about slicomacy? When people complain of an imaginary disease, right? Okay, let me go back. Let me go back. Hold on, let me answer this. Hold on. Yes, I am. Y'all following me? I know you follow me. Cause you too near me not to hear me. You too near me not to hear me, y'all. Right? Yeah, I know. I just wanted to give y'all a little preface of that mind power, man, and not getting caught up with man-made religion because I'm way past that. And we should be way past that, you know? But suggestion is more effective than out and out demand or request. Subtle suggestion is a wonderful power and wealthy. So you have to understand how to use these concepts in your everyday life. These are tools in the toolbox which you read in your Morris Quran, which people just be using them as catchphrases. I'm breaking them down in layman terms. You must know how to use these keys. Even mobs use these keys. You know? I'm telling you what I know. A lot of these same lawyers use this psychology. Mark Anthony employed in addressing a jury. I once heard him address a jury with words which led me to believe for a few minutes that he was either drunk or that he had suddenly lost his reason. He began by extolling the virtues of his opponents, and apparently he was helping them establish their case against his own client. He began by saying, "Now, gentlemen of the jury, read it." But after he had gone along this line for a time, he suddenly stopped and with deep dramatic effect said, "But that is what the other side says about this case. Now that we know what their contentions are, let us turn the other side of the case." Oh, killed them. From that point on, this lawyer played upon the minds of the jury as a violinist would play upon the strings of his instrument, and within 15 minutes, he had half of them in tears. And at the end of his speech, he dropped into his seat, apparently overcome with emotions. The jury filled out, and in less than half an hour, returned with a verdict for his client. Had this lawyer started out by stating the weak side of his opponent's case and urging upon the jury the merits of his own case too soon, he would undoubtedly have suffered defeat. But as I afterwards learned, this lawyer was a close student of Shakespeare. He made use of the Mark Anthony psychology in nearly all of his cases. And it is said that he lost fewer cases than any other lawyer in the community in which he practiced. See, the people know this, what I'm saying. This same principle is used by the successful salesman, who not only refrains from knocking his competitor, but actually goes out of his way to speak highly of him. See, this is a key. His competitor, but actually goes out to speak highly of his competitor. No person ought to consider himself a finished salesman until he or she mastered the Mark Anthony psychology and learned how to apply these keys. This speech is one of the greatest lessons in salesmanship ever written. I always recommend this to brothers and sisters. If a salesman loses a sale, he or she, the chances are that 99 to 1 that he lost or she lost it of the lack of proper preparation of the prospective buyer's mind. He or she spent too much time trying to close the sale and not enough time preparing the buyer's mind. He or she tried to reach his or her climax too soon. But the successful salesman or woman must prepare the buyer's mind to receive suggestions without either questioning or resisting them. We're not talking about the influencer per se. The human mind is a complex affair. It's an intricate affair per se. One of its characteristics is the fact that all impressions which reach the subconscious division are recognized in groups which harmonize and which are apparently close related. So I'll talk about the power of your mind. When one of the impressions is called into the conscious mind, there is a tendency to recall all of others with it. I'll give you an analogy or a parable or an example per se. One single act or word that causes a feeling of doubt to arise in a person's mind is sufficient to recall into his or her conscious mind all of his or her experiences which cause him or her to be doubtful. Through the law of association, all similar emotions, experiences, or sense impressions which reach the mind are recorded together so that the recalling of one has a tendency to bring out the others per se. So we talk about these things of the mind just as a small pebble will, when thrown into the water, start a chain of ripples, right? That will rapidly multiply. The subconscious mind has a tendency to bring into consciousness all of the associated or closely related emotions or sense impressions, which has stored when one of them are aroused. You know this to be true, brothers and sisters, no matter what religion you proclaim. And to arouse a feeling of doubt in a person's mind has a tendency to bring to surface every doubt building experience that person has ever had. So when you dealing with a mate and they try to always talk about the worst of you, or when certain things, or you dealing with an abusive mate and you've been abused before, it's going to bring out all the abuse. The woman is like a tender flower. That's why I talk about the woman is Mayat, the garden that produces food and life. The woman is, I'm telling you, is a jewel to be caressed. You remember you was a kid, they just say, what is the woman made of? Sugar and spice and everything nice? Women is made of sugar and spice and everything nice. You just want a yum, yum, yummy. Come on, man. And everybody know that. I mean, that's the only heaven that I know. That's the only heaven that I know. And men try to go into heaven every night. I know I want to go back to heaven every night. I don't know about you. Hey, excuse me, y'all. But I know I want to go into heaven every night. Excuse me. Man, I cracked myself up. But if my brothers, I know you with me. And if you don't want to go into heaven every night, you tripping. You tripping. Oh my goodness. Help me, boy. Well, let's finish the science. Look at Malik. I bet you Malik cracking up though. But to arouse a feeling of doubt in a person's mind has a tendency to bring to a surface, he cracking up, to a surface every doubt building experience that a person ever had. You know. I want us to know that. A feeling of courage cannot claim the attention of our conscious mind while a feeling of fear is there. One must supplant the other. They cannot become roommates because they do not harmonize. These things don't harmonize. And every thought held in the conscious mind has a tendency to draw to it every other harmonious or related thought. You know? You and I, you see, therefore, that those feelings, those thoughts, and those emotions which claim the attention of the conscious mind are backed by a regular army of supporting soldiers who stand ready to aim them in the work, all ready to shoot. Pew, pew. Placing in man's mind, through the principle of suggestion, the ambition to succeed in any undertaking, and you will see that that woman's latent ability aroused and his or her powers automatically increase. You have this ability. Who? Man and woman. You must plant in your body's mind, plant in your body's mind through the principle of what? Suggestion, the ambition to become a successful ETC. What success is, whatever you want to be successful in, you can be successful in it. And if you keep away all counter influences, you will see that you can reach your desired goal. It's just that simple. It's much easier to influence a child through suggestion than is an adult. So when you have the mind frame, when you have the understanding as a child, then you can manifest these adult attributes. For the reason that in the mind of a child, there are no set and there is not many opposing influences to break down the process of neutralizing the mind. See, a lot of adults have things that neutralize the mind, and he or she is naturally more credulous than an older person. What I'm saying, my brothers and sisters, in the principle of suggestion lies the great roadway. It lies the great roadway to success in the organization and the management of men and women. What I'm saying, my brothers and sisters, is that the superintendent, foreman, the manager, or the president of an organization, just like I am, just like you are, because you are a president of your life, who fails to understand and use this principle in depriving himself of the most powerful force through which to influence who? Your brothers and your sisters, and even yourself. One of the most able and efficient managers that you can think about is a man who never criticized one of his members. Think of this psychosis. To the contrary, he constantly reminds them of how well they were doing. In business, we call this the Maslow's, the theory of hierarchy. In business, I have an undergrad in business. That's why a good manager, a good foreman is going to he's never going to put something on his brothers that they can't handle. You're going to bring the best out of everyone. Why? Because you should know your brothers and sisters. And that's what I do. I know my brothers and sisters because I love. And love is an action word. But he constantly reminds them of how well they are doing. He made a practice of going among his men, working with him, stopping here and there to lay a hand on a man's shoulder to see what's going on, to see how can they improve or how can he improve. It made no difference how poor a man's work was. This manager, this concept never reprimanded him by constantly placing in mind and in the man's mind and in their mind through the principle of suggestion, the thought that they are improving. They caught the suggestion and were promptly, effectively influenced by it. Understand this power. See, this is power. I'm telling you, I know this. I'm giving you analogies that work. One day, the manager stopped by the workbench of a man whose record showed that his work was decreased in quantity. The man was working on piecework. Laying his hands on his man's shoulder, he said, "Brother Akbar, I believe you are doing much better work than you were last week. You seem to be setting the other boys a lively pace. I'm glad to see this. Go get it, my boy." Just encourage it. And not just saying the work, but anything that you do. What I'm saying, be the best at whatever you do. Don't let nobody discourage you and say, "Oh, you still got that little business." Yeah, you still got that little business. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You still got that little business. Neutralize a mind. You must produce in a state of querulousness greater than the normally maintained by the subject. Fortunate is the person who controls his egotism and his desire for self-expression to the extent that he or she is willing to pass his or her own ideas on to others. That's what I do. I pass my ideas on to others without insisting on reminding them as to the source of those ideas. The man, the woman who begins his statement with, "As you, of course, know, Mr. Such and Such," instead of, "Let me tell you something you don't know, Mr. Such and Such," is a salesman who knows how to make use of the principle of what? Suggestion. One of the cleverest and most able salesmen is a man or a woman who rarely took credit for any information that he or she passed on to his prospective buyers. I'm giving you keys. It's always, as you of course already know. You see, as you of course already know. I'm giving you credit as you already know this. So and so, you know, the very effort which some people make to impress us with their superior knowledge acts as a negative barrier that is hard to overcome in the process of rendering our minds neutral. Instead of neutralizing our minds, my brothers and sisters, such people antagonize us and make impossible the operation of the principle of suggestion in influencing you and I. See, we must understand these keys that operate on a higher plane of wisdom. So, my brothers and sisters, I want to play a little bit of this film, of this document. When I always tell my brothers and sisters, we have to stop, with all due respect to my different melanated brothers and sisters, we have to stop giving credit to different nationalities, you know, because I'm going to always show you that all the great thinkers and things like that, of that nature, was taught by melanated brothers and sisters. So I played a little bit of this one day, but I want to play the whole, I want to play a little bit more of it. And so you can see what they say. It's called, is Abdullah, the teacher, healer, spiritual mentor of Neville Goddard. You know, this book is by what's the European name? Lehner, W.C. Lehner. If I'm Lanyon, Lehner, excuse me, by W.C. Lehner, and it's recommended by everywhere I have these books. I have a full library with over 1 million books and documents, and I tell people this all day. I always recommend people to read things historically for you can know. Like, even, okay, so a lot of people, they like to look at the comments. And so somebody hit me up, they was like, brother, send me a great donation too. He was like, I know you don't have time, but I just want to know for sure. And he was like, even though this quote in that book, is there any other pictures of Abdullah? Do you have any other books? And I said, I have books of everything. And I always recommended my nobles to get the book. It's called The Chosen Ones, or The Chosen People. I might be misquoting it, but when I get back to AZ, I'll show the book. And it got Wentworth Matthews and them, and it got Abdullah, the Ethiopian rabbi, and it's showing the same picture and how the turbans will work in the church that signified the magical workers of the East. The turbans, black men wore turbans in the church, and it signified the mystical East. Turbans were worn in the church and signified the mystical East. And the brother in the book that I show is the same brother that Abdullah, the same picture. So whatever people be trying to say, I don't know, whatever you trying to disquote, whatever, same brother. So if you want to say his name ain't this, his name ain't that, same brother. So we gonna keep sticking the fork in a plethora of times. So we're gonna play this a little bit. I want y'all to listen to it. You see what it says right here? We're gonna play it.
A cherished addition to the
Let me go back.
Stanford Library has been
Let me go to the beginning.
digitally revived by book. This rare and precious book, a cherished addition to the Stanford Library, has been digitally revived by Google Books, preserving its timeless wisdom for future generations. Abd Allah, teacher, healer, chronicles the profound teachings of Abd Allah, a spiritual master who significantly influenced notable figures such as Neville Goddard, Thomas Troward, and Genevieve Behrend. Abd Allah's insights have shaped the thoughts and practices of many spiritual teachers of the time, making this work an invaluable resource for those interested in spiritual growth and enlightenment. Abdullah, teacher, healer, behold, the day breaketh. As Jethro came through the low gate, he saw Abd Allah working on a vase. It was a lovely thing to behold, large and of a heavenly blue color. The graceful arms of the potter embraced the vase as he painted clusters of almond blossoms upon the clear field. Jethro stood for a moment watching the potter turn from his vase to the cluster of almond blossoms, which almost touched his bare brown shoulders. The almond tree stood covered with its mist of silvery whiteness against the clear sky, and the wonder of the morning hovered over all. What a glorious vase, he said, and how perfectly you are getting the sky and the almond tree into it. When I look at it, the one becomes lost in the other. As it should be, said Abdullah, not looking up from his work. When you have a perfect concept of anything, you can easily reproduce it.
Woo!
I suppose the most difficult thing, then, is to acquire the perfect concept, continued Jethro, gazing from the vase to the sky and tree and back again. It is not so difficult as it is exacting. Many people grasp at things and think to reproduce them without understanding much more than the surface covering. As a result, they have a lifeless thing, like a child when he attempts to draw a picture of a man. As he matures with study, he finds that a study of the structure and anatomy of man enables him to paint something beneath the skin that makes the thing more lifelike and natural. Jethro listened intently. It is like some of the students who come for instruction. When you tell them that they are perfect because God is perfect, they immediately rush away, feeling that they have the whole science in their grasp, and are disappointed when they cannot reproduce, even in a small way, what they have learned. We must study and ponder and learn the simple lessons before we do the larger ones. I do not want to be discouraging to the student, for the moment they hear the truth spoken, there is some demonstration that they can make with what they know. But if they were only willing to demonstrate that truth and not try to demonstrate things that are beyond their ken at that time, they would rise to glorious heights on a solid foundation of truth, which they had erected themselves and which could not be swept away by the storms. Many times a student has made a beautiful and spectacular demonstration without supporting it by solid evidence. When the testing storm dashed against the house, it fell and left him a wreck on the sands. I have heard you say to the class that simplicity is the keynote to truth, and yet this all seems confusing to me. It should not be so. When the seed of truth is first sown, it has in it the promise of a rose, but it has certain steps and stages to go through, and when it has performed these stages, it will just naturally open in all its glory. If it is forced and at last opened by mistaken, loving fingers, it fails utterly, because it had not arrived through steady growth at the place of demonstration. There is never a moment when the truth seeker cannot find something wholly within his ken that he can demonstrate over. Only the problems that we are able to meet at that time confront us, and if we work these out, persistently clinging to the fact that we are growing to the light, there will be larger things to prove, and grander proofs will come to us as we go along the way. A soft, cool morning breeze showered almond blossoms over them. From the distance called the first morning birds. Out of the east, the sifted gold of the morning sun was changing the purple into shell pink. It was the natural time of prayer and thanksgiving, and so the boy took his harp and sang his morning hymn, while the potter sat in silence, meditating on the wonders of life, its beauty, its happiness. The heavens declare the glory of him who made all things. Each day repeats the story, each night its tribute brings. To earth's remotest border, his mighty power is known. In beauty, grandeur, order, his handiwork is shown. The sweet, warm voice quivered and fluttered on the air like some delighted butterfly, and then became silent. They sat for a while in silence, with eyes raised to heaven and hearts full of gratitude as they prayed and felt the impetus of their prayers rush into them. And Abdullah read from the sacred scrolls, "Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. Depart from evil and do good, and dwell forevermore. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell therein forever. The law of God is in his heart, and none of his steps shall slide. For the kingdom is the Lord's, and he is the governor among the nations." After the reading had finished, the boy sang again, "In daily contemplation of thee I take delight. O let my meditation lay hold of thee aright. Aid me in the suppression of idle thought and word. Keep me from all transgression. Redeemer, strength, and Lord." "And so be it," finished Abdullah as he turned again to his vase. "If everyone in the world would sit for a few moments of rejoicing at the beginning of the day before they began the contact with their brothers, they would go through the happy day moving mountains of error or evil. Prayer in the morning is like tuning an instrument before you begin playing on it. Some people arise and hurry out unprepared. When a storm comes, they hope to quiet it with sweet harmony, but passing the hands over the strings of their instrument, they find it out of tune, and the storm rages on while they try to tune it amidst the roar of mortal thinking. How much better had they paused for a moment and put it in harmony with praise and thanksgiving at the beginning of the day. This is what fortifies us against the strife of the world. This is being prepared to meet the lions in the street. This is what makes our passing as that of exquisite music. A few moments at the break of day, alone with their Creator, acknowledging, giving thanks, receiving instructions. That is what makes the day as a golden globe wherein no shadow or worry lies. He turned again to his vase. Jethro watched him as he worked, constantly looking at the spray of blossoms near him. How often he turned to them to be sure he had their right size, color, and shape. He was a true artist. As if he sensed the boy's thoughts, the potter spoke again about the vase. "When a man has a perfect concept of anything, it is not difficult to reproduce that thing. Now for years I've had the almond tree with me and have studied it in all its changes. I've come to know the silvery whiteness of its blossoms as distinguished from the bluish white of other flowers of the morning. I have gained a perfect concept of it, and I am producing it here on this vase that it may go into the city and bring with it a breath of the country, of the open. But suppose, for instance, instead of this inanimate vase, we take the body or temple of man. We pass hundreds of men daily who have not the true concept of what a perfect body is or should be. Their drawings are bad. I always feel as though I should like to erase their drawings and start new ones for them. I instinctively want to give them the true concept of health or joy and happiness, that they may picture it forth on the temple and make it a glorious thing, a thing of beauty and a thing of use. There is a grand and glorious law governing this all. It is the blast upon the trumpet which shall awaken the dead. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So simple that it seems difficult, people pass it by every day without noticing it. They will say to you that it is all theory, that there is nothing true about it, never stopping to consider that the very sick thoughts they are holding are manifesting and proving to them the truth of this statement in a way that should make them leap up into understanding. And yet how simple when a man does waken and sees that his thinking has made him or brought him where he now stands. He immediately starts the reversing process, and if he faint not, he shall see results. Some are discouraged because they cannot change the conditions at once. They forget that they have sowed and harvested for years crops of error. They expect to come to the field and sprinkle wheat over it and see an immediate fruitage, forgetting for the moment that that very field has been thickly sown with tares. But the true overcomer recognizes that the law which he is now putting into operation for good is the very one that he has been distorting and using to produce evil, and that the weeding process must now begin, and the constant planting of good thoughts, good deeds, and words. This is all a glorious work to the overcomer, no matter how great the problem before him. Day after day, he is finally brought to the height of attainment without ever tackling the thing as a whole. O ye of little faith, why will we go on, failing to do the little things? For of them the big things are made. If we are to move a mountain, we must begin by taking away some small portion of it. Every grain of dust has to be moved before the whole mountain will be put away, and it is the realizing of this that makes the work worthwhile. We can begin just where this finds us and take away the obstacles which confront us today.
Come on.
Perhaps this is the tendency to think discouraging thoughts about the possible outcome. Maybe it is mental laziness, or maybe it is a feeling that my problem is greater than yours. But anyway, whatever it is just a little grain of dust which must be moved away today so that tomorrow more debris can be removed.
Oh my.
And at last, by daily cleansing and putting away, we will find the mountain has been entirely moved and that we have attained the heights of demonstration.
Come on. Come
and
on.
One of the greatest aids to accomplishment is the morning prayers, the morning bath, we might call it, when the mind is washed pure and clean from evils and set right for the day. When the perfect concept comes to man, he gradually begins to show it forth in his life. He begins to realize that he is something more than a reflection. He begins to identify himself with the Father within and not with the body. Jesus did this constantly. He was always one with the Father within. I and my Father are one. He never associated himself with the body. The body was where the concept was being worked out. It was as the canvas of a master where he drew his pictures, had his demonstrations, and made manifest the Word. The Word became flesh and dwelt among them. You are more than body. Body is not man. Man is the something which cooperates with the Father within and which controls the body absolutely. Do you mean that man is not body? Broke in Jethro. That is exactly what I mean, replied Abdullah. There is nowhere any authority for such a belief. Man is one with God. Man is the thing which has authority and dominion. Body never had dominion over a single thing. It is the animating influence, the mind, which was also in Christ Jesus, which did the work, and that is what we are. We are the very power which moves and controls the body. It is our canvas upon which we can see the Word made flesh. It is our practice ground. Now I see, said Jethro. Now I see how we have dominion, how we have authority. Always heretofore, I have thought of a man as body, not especially the material body, but just as body, and I can see how utterly impossible it is to make demonstrations with such a belief. We are divine, heirs, sons. We are not bodies. We control the body by our thoughts. We trace upon it what we will. We fashion it as we desire. We find with this new grand freedom that we escape the body or bondage. It is as if it were something which we held from us. It is only a concept of what we are holding in mind. It is just like that vase. You are not in it, and it has no control over you, yet you can fashion it, paint it, and decorate it in the manner you like. You hold it from you. Though it crashed to earth, it would in no way affect you, for you are one with the Father within and have power to take it up again. I have power to lay it, life, down, and I have power to take it up again. You are the divine spark which is the true man, and which is a little lower than the angels, endowed with authority and power. It is very glorious to come into this dominion, to hold the body away from us, as it were, and not consider it a factor in our lives. It is very wonderful to consider it as a vase upon which we, the potters, through our association with the Father within, can trace designs of beauty, can control it perfectly, never to be troubled with it, never to be in submission to it, or to listen to its complaints. For the clay cannot reply to the potter. Eternal mind the potter is, and thought the eternal clay. Then our bodies are thought, and the eternal mind is the mind with which we are one, and with which we operate and control the clay or thought. I wish everybody could see this and handle their bodies after this manner. It would put to naught all sickness and misery in less time than anything I know of. Once they regarded their bodies as a detached sort of thing upon which they were working out the design of their highest concept, they would hear no complaint from it, for they would be in authority. And while Jethro talked, Abdallah had painted into his vase a butterfly of pale gold, resting ever so lightly on the almond branch. "Oh, how beautiful it is! How lightly it touches the blossoms, and how full of life," said Jethro, coming nearer. "It is your inspiration, that wonderful thing which never more than touches matter and feeds among the lilies." Sarik the rug maker. As Abdallah and Jethro proceeded on their way towards the temple, they passed the dwelling of Sarik, the rug maker. He sat in the open court of his little dwelling, working on an exquisite Bokhara rug. The man and boy paused, then entered. Sarik rose and greeted them. He was proud of the beautiful work before him, which was nearing completion. Its deep rose hue was like velvet, against which rested geometric designs in turquoise and deep blue, edged with black and ivory. "What a magnificent piece of work," said Abdallah, running his fingers over the velvet texture. "It is perfect." Sarik smiled graciously. "It is a prayer rug for Adonai. See, here is the filfot, the good luck sign," and he pointed a brown finger to the Greek cross, which was ingeniously woven in the corners of the rug. Abdallah smiled at him. "A good luck sign in a prayer rug seems unnecessary, especially if one knows how to pray." "It is," said Sarik, "but this is an order." He rubbed his fingers over the rich surface of color, and not many people have yet overcome superstition and fear of signs and omens. "That is true," said Abdallah. "I have known people who knew the truth to cling to many superstitions. For instance, some of them imagine that by thinking for a moment in silence and then placing their hands on a certain part of the sacred scrolls, they will find an answer to their prayers. This is the rankest kind of superstition. It is a belief in a separate God." Sarik listened. He was a student of Abdallah and often sat in the crowd that massed about the gates of the city when he talked. "Do you mean, then, that we are not to go without ourselves for our help?" "That is exactly what I mean, for there is absolutely nothing outside of you that can help or harm you. Not that which goeth into a man, but that which cometh out defileth him, and it might also be added, makes him." The good luck signs and omens, superstitions and fears to which men bow down, have no power either for good or for evil. It is simply the attitude that the mind of the man takes toward them. If a man has a good luck charm or peace with him, every time he thinks of it, he thinks of good luck, and this has a tendency to attract things towards him that would not otherwise come his way. But when he is under the ban of such material thinking, there are also so many counter and cross-counter laws to operate against him that his sign usually amounts to nothing. If he believes in luck, he must also believe in disaster or ill luck, or else he would not need a charm or sign to protect or drive away the ill luck. When a man comes to truth, he should learn first of all that the glory of truth is the understanding that there is no separateness between him and God, and that he need have recourse to no other sign or wonder than the mind of Christ that is within. You cannot imagine God stooping to such absurd things as are believed in. For instance, some of the most advanced thinkers accept, in part at least, the signs of the zodiac and suffer from the predictions made by its adepts. Would it be reasonable to imagine God as the creator of law and then have him transfer this to a number of stars, etc., and imagine the intricate mass of laws which cross and recross to meet or put in operation the millions of destinies which are supposed to be under their control? It is unthinkable. It is impossible to grasp such a complicated form, especially when you realize that it completely rules God out of his kingdom and puts the control of the universe and man into the hands of stars. Yet many suffer both directly and indirectly because of their faith in these things. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If he believes that these things have power over him, they certainly will have power until he suffers enough from the experience to wash his hands of it all and turn to the glorious fact that he is not separate for one instant from God, who is the only power. This is worthy of a quiet half-hour's meditation. This fact that God and man are one. It may seem big on the surface, but when you pause for a moment and think, I am one with God, then think what God is, and feel the sweet assurance of your unity with God, a great cloud of worry and anxiety will be lifted from your shoulders, and you will be freed from the belief of signs and omens, or even the blind belief in looking for a sign in the sacred scrolls. Abdallah, said Sarek, I have often been guilty of this. I have often prayed in silence and then placed my hands on a part of the scrolls and read the verse, endeavoring to get a direct answer to my prayers, but had I stopped to consider it, I would have known that it is just as material as it is to place your hand on this Greek cross and expect something good to happen. Truth is founded on a principle, and though you hold your hand on the principle all day, it will not work out a single problem. What is required is the application. Of course, when we pray, the answer is given us and also the way to put it into practice, and we need no further sign. If we could only see the importance of thought and how valuable it is to govern it absolutely. I presume that if people knew what thought really is, they would be amazed and open-eyed with wonderment at the fact that a thought is as powerful as a deed, and sometimes more so, said Abdallah. It would revolutionize the world if everyone knew and followed this. There are many things now that you can think that you would not put into action for the world, yet in some vague way, every thought comes to fruitage. Perhaps you can destroy its effects or uproot it before it comes to light if you are alert, but think...
We're going to stop right there. I only wanted to go for an hour. I got to make a run. But that's Abdullah, teacher, healer, spiritual mentor of Neville Goddard. That's the full auto book by W.C. Lanin and all my muftis. I sent y'all that book, you know what I mean? I recommend y'all not only listen to the whole book, that's the auto book, but read it. It's very powerful, as I use all keys for wisdom, but it's all more science. It's all more science. But that was something that stuck out to me so much. Also with the chapter of auto-suggestion, that I try to show brothers and sisters, no matter how much you think you know, this science that I teach is holistic, and it's supposed to, you know, weigh out into your life. Neville Goddard, Neville Goddard, Nevelle Goddard. Neville Goddard. You got a lot of his books I sent you, a lot of his lectures, but all his wisdom come from the Ethiopian rabbi. And the book that I showed y'all, The Chosen Ones, that this picture, you know, that brother is in the book, remember? With the turban. The turban worn by the mystical workers of the East, the black men, the mystical workers of the East in the church. And it's in the book. Right next to the page with Wentworth Matthew with them of the Moor Zionist Temple of the Moor Zionist Jews in the book. So I just want us to know this, man, and as I continue and we continue to move, it's a lot of good things happening when we correcting his teachings. And like I said, it's just an honor to be a clean glass. And I told people what was going to happen. we was gonna be right here in the midst of everything. And no matter what people profess or whatever groups they be a part of, we the upper echelon of the science. Why? Because we've been standing strong forever and we don't have to reinvent ourselves. That's what I'm talking about. And I teach truth, nothing but the truth. All other stuff is irrelevant to me. I don't respect no old person, or no young person that don't know anything. That's not how we operating. This is no popularity contest. This is wisdom. This is understanding. It's only one science. It's only one history. It's only one law. It's only one more science temple. It's only one prophet, Noble Drew Ali. We not no sovereign citizens. We ain't here to overthrow no government. I'm telling you, we have the right to do these things. And if anybody operating outside the parameter of the law, they're not a friend of mine. Point blank. I don't care if you have affairs. That don't mean nothing. You can go to jail with that fez on your head, that turban, all that on your head. Because there's a lot of brothers out here that's just been lying forever. And there's no special law for no Moors. It ain't no such thing as no sovereign citizen. That's an oxymoron. All that stuff is criminal behavior. Point blank. Period. And that stuff that people saw on BMF, that was some of the most stupidest shit that you can show of a group, of a movement of brothers for a group of melanated people to be what they call themselves, the directors of anything, to show that type of movement in the likes like that, when that was not the movement when Noble Drew Ali left and demonstrated, because that ain't what we demonstrate. Talk about this our land, and they don't go by no government laws and get off the porch. That's all the stupid rhetoric that these Negroes be out here doing, that you see these pretendos with that European Roger Elvick sovereign citizen trash, with that paradigm group. That's what them Negroes got that criminal stuff from. And they all criminals. That's where they got that stuff from. And that's not more science. So, with that being said, I'm going to continue to stand my ground on it. I don't care how nobody feel, because all those characters, all those ones I told y'all, all those ones that's affiliated, that got y'all caught up on the internet, I told people years ago that it's going to be a RICO law going out. And y'all saw all those other people get locked up for that. Big U, Brick Baby, all them with them influencers, all them old school people. And now they getting all them Moors, they gone too. With all the paper terrorists, all that filing this ID, taking this to the bank, all these notes, even that old conscious community with that Army Federal stuff, these people going to jail. And I've been telling people this stuff wasn't nothing but a pyramid scheme and a Ponzi scheme. And they resurface and they be in these churches in Atlanta. And I told y'all, and these pastors be criminals too. They be all working the same. And I told y'all, they only do this to your own kind. But until we clean our own house up, it don't make no difference. But like I said, I'm going to continue to teach the truth, no matter if it fill a room up or clear it out. We're going to continue to build. And I hope any Moors that's out here that operate as a Moorish American don't get caught up with no bull crap. I'm right here. All you got to do is seek me out. Don't be out here playing no games, act like you don't know. You know? Yep. Yep, exactly, Malik. I got a whole bunch of them. Yep. But I want that to be known. We use the mind. And when I show people, and I'm going to go even deeper, when people be giving Eliseus Levi credit, talk about Noble Drew Ali plagiarized something. Eliseus Levi was none but a transcriber. None of these, no disrespect, Europeans was heavy. Alan Blavinsky wasn't heavy. Pascal Beverly Randolph wasn't heavy. Aleister Crowley wasn't heavy. None of them was heavy. The dude that wrote the Anunnaki, Zachariah Stinson, wasn't heavy. Even the European that wrote Behold the Pale Horse wasn't heavy. All of them was 32 and 33 degree lower level snowman masons. These is facts. These is facts, man. And so, once again, I love my brothers and sisters, Moors, true light seekers, all my spiritual brothers, even my Masons, my so-called Hebrew Israelites. Let's sit down and have dialogue, and let's come to a level, because there's too many of us to be separated. And if we have this common denominator, which is righteousness for our people, then we should be doing like the prophet did and had what? The uniting of Asia. And we come together and we deal with solidarity. If not, it's going to be hard for us to get to a place, you know, because a lot of our brothers and sisters don't know history and language, and they operate on a belief system. you know, and that's most of the religious brothers, you know, and it's just a fact. But I love everyone. I thank y'all for your time. And once again, brothers and sisters, we have to study to show ourselves approved. And we shouldn't be teaching our babies nothing that, we shouldn't be teaching nothing that we wouldn't teach our babies and have them out representing, going to school. We shouldn't be teaching our babies none of that stuff. And I want my brothers and sisters to come to class, share their stuff. Man, get my books, man. For you can help us build this brick and mortar. We can do something real. We don't got to be talking about all these other celebrities that said they was going to do this and these people that said they was going to open up a school. We don't know those people. We don't got to be even talking about them. We can support someone that's real and do something that's real in our community and see it work for real and hold me accountable. Once again, I love y'all. Thank y'all for your time, my brothers and sisters. And we're going to keep going and keep going. And we're going to be persistent until success happens. Why? Because we should. And we have the right. And we can make something happen with ourselves. If we smart and if we use auto-suggestion, if we use our God consciousness, if we use our subconsciousness, we can do anything. Why? Because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh. So once again, I love y'all. Peace, light, and illumination.